Christopher Walken, first time I ever did a casting session in America, terrified me.
Me too.
I mean, fucking hell. I came to meet the guy. They said, oh, he's flying in from God knows where.
Yeah, but he didn't need a plane, right?
Yeah, it's like, he came in, he was doing all the kind of Scorsese stuff. And I said, have you had a chance to read the script? And he looked at me and he said, do you like my face? And I went, yes. And he said, well, that's fucking great, because if you don't, get De Niro. Fuck you, I'm out of here. And stood up and walked out. And everyone said, well, that I think was quite a good meeting.
No, he came to see me on a rooftop in New York. I said, hey, can I talk to you? And he said, sure. And he floated in, sideways, through a crowd of people. He was wearing black. And it was like one of those old vampire movies where they don't walk, but they glide. And he was a dancer, you know, so he has he's very, you know, graceful.
Yeah.
And he moved sideways, and he just sat down in the chair next to me. And it kind of frightened me. And he's a very smart guy. And we started talking, and I didn't, you know, say much of anything about reading the script, nothing. I just started talking about the Middle Ages, and he began to talk tortures. And we swapped tortures, because I'd read this book on torture. And I tried to recall some of the most heinous things I'd ever read in this book, and he was like, oh, and he'd try and top it. And and my assistant was there, and he left because he couldn't stand it anymore.
Yeah.
The air had turned cold. And then he left, and I wanted to leave. And because I knew that I didn't want to work with him.
Yeah.
And he was getting scary.
Yeah.
And then I turned around, and it was on top of the Peninsula Hotel. I turned around to avoid his steady gaze at one point, and I was looking at a building with the top of the sixes on it, so there was a huge illuminated triple six in red.
Yeah.
And I went from that to that to that, and he started smiling. And I thought, oh no, Chris Walken is the Antichrist, you know?
There's certain trends that seem to kind of float together, which is, and one of the questions that keeps coming up is, why are there no decent parts for women? Why are women just completely underused in storytelling within this system known as Hollywood? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think the storytelling has always been a kind of a male medium.
Always in history?
Always.
Yeah.
From the start. They were the guys who did. I mean, women just think differently to us, and that's a good thing. And there are things about the way they think and about the way they look at things that we cannot possibly understand. In fact, it's far above us, beyond us, to try and like get a hook on it. Because I've tried, and I'm a little wiser because I can kind of allow for it more now because I understand that it exists. But totally understanding it, I will never. And I think the male of the species is more adept at the telling of a story. That's why you go to any bar, it's not women telling jokes. It's guys telling jokes.
Right.
Women are notoriously bad joke tellers, most of them. Some of them are good. Some of them have the capacity for it. But I think, just generally, I think men are better at it, at telling stories, and when they tell a story, it has to issue from themselves and their own experience. And it's very hard, if most of the storytellers around are men, to actually have a good story about a woman.
Right.
I think. It's done pretty well at times.
Even if we go back to, say, the 40s, 50s, early 60s, just of cinema, I'll forget literature, although the balance would have been still in the favor of men, in terms of just number of roles and so on, there were far more, there were some very powerful actresses who were taken incredibly, in terms of box office, were taken as seriously as men. And
like Joan Crawford.
Exactly. Any number of them, actually, you know?
But she used to display a male point of view. It was very interesting. She was very masculine on screen.
Right.
And is it that women are they're saying the parts aren't good because they're not masculine? I'm never quite sure about that.
If you look at the scripts that are floating around right now, and the movies that are being made, they're woefully short on interesting female parts.
Yes, they
Women
are.
tend to kind of pop up and sort of endorse men, take their clothes off if they're in a good enough shape, and leave.
Yeah.
And one of the actresses I spoke to, actually, I came up with what I thought was a pretty smart thing, which was saying, I said, at what point do you see the decline in women's roles? He said, at the moment women took their clothes off, and it became a given, then seemed to be a lack of respect and a dropping off of interest in other points of interest about women. You know?
There's a producer I know, successful producer, I will not mention names, but his whole opinion about women on film, from beginning to end, is very brief. He says, women on film, either naked or dead. Both is better. And it's like, whoa, whoa. The man has got a spiritual malady for a start. I mean, the scary thing is that I think a lot of people think that. Maybe not to that extreme. There are people, well-meaning people, and you find that the woman and the woman's role in a film becomes some sort of just appendage to the man. And I can see why they're not too fulfilled in doing that. I was educated in the way of theater craft and stuff was a very British way of doing things, which meant technique. Yeah, they're all in favor of actually feeling a real emotion and doing that. But they just say you are not going to be able to summon that every time, and even if you could summon that every time, you would die young. So that you have to be able to at least fake it well.
How do you deal with actors on that way?
Well, you choose the ones who you want to be with for a start. I never make them read or anything. I doubt that you do either.
I don't like it.
I don't understand
I get embarrassed.
I get embarrassed.
And when they cry in a reading, I get like, oh, God. You know.
You want to go and...
You want to leave because you feel you shouldn't be there.
Well, it seems like you're doing something terribly wrong. You feel like some kind of a, I mean, you feel as if you're committing a crime. And it's kind of slimy. It's kind of prostitution.
Sure.
But that, I think, is even beyond. It's just kind of watching someone go through the act of prostituting themselves. It's there's something very almost unbearable about it.
I find it. All the actresses I've spoken to, all without prompting, come up with the same thing of how detestable is the casting process. Not the old casting couch thing, just the thing of not having someone good to read with, and being expected to come in and emote and look sexy and the whole thing in front of a bunch of strangers.
It's not fair.
It's perverse.
Well, it's not fair on them either.
No.
It's asking them to do something, and you don't find out anything from it.
Nothing.
You find out nothing from it. This is the main reason why I really hate it. You can get them in there, and somebody might do just a slap-up job for that day, but that's what they've aimed at that day. You have to be able to figure out whether they're going to be any good for 3 months while you're working with them. And the best way to do that is to get them in the room, sit them down, and it may be uncomfortable, as it always is getting to know someone to begin with, and they think they're going to have to read, so you tell them, well, to begin with, I don't want you to read anything, and they sort of relax a little, and you say, I'm not making anybody read, so they don't feel like they're being outcast.
No, that's the big thing, yeah.
And I don't think it tells you anything except the fact that, well, hey, they can read. I was fortunate. I only had to do it one time, ever.
As an actor?
As an actor, when I was starting out in a career. I only had to do it once because I was really bad at it. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. What happened was, I went into this place and it was, the guy said, read this. Can you memorize this in like 10 minutes and come back and do it? And he gave me this script with, it was like 2 full pages of like complete, like a soliloquy, like a dialogue. Not well written either.
No.
I said, just give me a little hint about who this guy is and why he's saying this stuff. So they gave me like a thumbnail. And I thought, okay. So I went into the next room and, I tried to comprehend it as best I could. And then I just came back. They turned a video camera on me and I just sat there and tried to do it. I didn't do it according to the page or anything, but I just started off and improvised a whole thing around it, which is all you could do in 10 minutes. I mean,
And got the job?
I got it, yeah. I was so far away from the technical aspects of reading and doing things within some parameter that is given in audition processes that I thought it was hopeless anyway, so I thought, fuck it, threw it away and was relaxed. And that's the best way to find out whether or not this actor, actress will suit your requirement, is to have them relax. And then you can talk about the fucking weather, and you'll know within 15 minutes.